When I, a 28-year-old woman, encountered Patrick 3 years ago, I was still grappling with the aftermath of a past relationship. My ex-boyfriend, Tyler, had been my companion since high school, but over time, he matured into someone with few redeeming qualities. Realizing that our relationship had no future, I initiated the breakup. However, due to shared friends and intertwined family connections, completely severing ties with Tyler proved impossible. Despite being the instigator of the breakup, I carry profound guilt and regret. Having loved him since high school, he was my first love, and the demise of our relationship left me cynical and faithless in love. Enter Patrick. He stood out for the men I had encountered until that point. His aura exuded a calmness that made him incredibly likable. Cautious not to endure another heartbreak, I took things slow with Patrick. Over time, I found myself deeply in love with him, and after a few months of dating, we tied the knot. Throughout these years, I crossed paths with Tyler on numerous occasions, given our shared social circle. Despite this, my marriage with Patrick thrived, and we envisioned a future together. Our bond grew even stronger when I joyfully discovered I was pregnant with our first child a few months ago. The happiness, however, took an unexpected turn. Patrick, seemingly out of the blue, expressed his desire for a divorce one day after returning from work. At 5 months pregnant, our life together was supposed to be just beginning. He provided no explanation for his sudden decision, and I suspected an extramarital affair. Despite my efforts to communicate and salvage our marriage, he remained resolute, leaving me devastated and unsure of how to cope with such a loss. The prospect of being pregnant and alone felt overwhelmingly helpless, and the day he asked for a divorce shattered my world. In the days that followed, I struggled to come to terms with the situation. While attempting to focus on my pregnancy, the solitude weighed heavily on me, and most nights were spent in tears, pondering where I had gone wrong. Patrick, living like a ghost in our home, rarely crossed paths with me, despite my multiple inquiries about the reasons behind his decision. His responses remained passive-aggressive, offering no closure. Every time I brought up the topic, Patrick insisted that I already knew the reason for our impending divorce, and behaved as though I were feigning ignorance. Amid the grief of divorce and the challenges of pregnancy, I felt compelled to delve deeper into the root cause of the pain that had befallen me. Although I had yet to move out of our shared house, Patrick and I were merely coexisting as roommates. Informing both sets of parents about our marital troubles, I found an unexpected source of support in my previously distant mother-in-law, who became sympathetic upon learning about the impending divorce. While my mother urged me to relocate to their house, I chose to remain with Patrick a bit longer. Recognizing that I couldn't reverse his decision, I resolved to stay strong for the sake of my unborn child, building a support system with friends and family and seeking therapy. Suspecting Patrick's involvement with someone else as the reason for the divorce, I felt compelled to find evidence of an affair. The only viable option was to scrutinize his phone, a task that would have been easier if we were alone at home. However, my mother-in-law insisted on staying with us for a week to lend her support, a gesture I initially declined, but eventually accepted. During her stay, I observed secretive conversations between her and Patrick, leading me to suspect they were discussing me. One day, while I was in the shower, I received an unexpected call from my ex-boyfriend, Tyler. We hadn't spoken since an unpleasant encounter a few months before my pregnancy. Curious about his sudden call, I contacted him, only to learn it was an accidental dial. Following my mother-in-law's departure, Patrick and I had our first heated argument, where he expressed feeling suffocated under the same roof as me. The timing of his outburst, coupled with my mother-in-law's sudden departure, raised suspicions about her potential role in Patrick's desire for a divorce. Driven by these suspicions and fueled by the revelation of strange behavior from my mother-in-law, I decided to investigate further. Going through Patrick's emails and text messages, I uncovered a chain of exchanges between him and my mother-in-law. To my horror, they revealed her urging him to leave me, claiming that I was carrying another man's child. The shock of reading these lies left me almost dropping the phone. As I read through the unbelievable content, I was stunned. My fidelity to Patrick had always been unwavering. Yet here was my own mother-in-law concocting lies about my loyalty. Scrolling down further, I discovered that she had falsely informed my husband that I was carrying my ex-boyfriend's child. Despite Patrick's denial of these accusations, she went a step further and shared some photos of me with Tyler, taken during our last meeting at a cafe. I hadn't informed Patrick about the meeting because I knew he was empathetic and would have given Tyler money, something I wanted to avoid. To add to the deception, she shared screenshots of text messages between her and Tyler, where he admitted to an affair outside my marriage. My head was spinning, but realizing this was my chance to gather evidence, I continued reading. By the end of the conversation, I grasped that even the last missed call from Tyler was orchestrated by my mother-in-law. Confronting Tyler with what I had discovered, I learned that he had done it all for money. Shockingly, it was revealed that it was my mother-in-law's plan from the beginning. She had contacted Tyler when she learned that Patrick and I were trying for a baby, and, desperate for money, he agreed to carry out her wishes. Determined to outsmart my mother-in-law, I offered Tyler more money to side with me. I planned to confront her and reveal the truth to Patrick. Yesterday, I packed my bags and awaited my husband's return from work. When he arrived, I called Tyler and invited him to our house. Though Patrick was furious, I insisted he sit down and listen to Tyler. As Tyler admitted to the orchestrated plan and showed Patrick evidence, my husband broke down in tears. Despite his pleas for me to stay, I left as planned, unmoved by his realization of the truth. His understanding came too late, especially after asking for a divorce based on manipulated information. Today, I confronted my mother-in-law, hoping Patrick had already discussed the matter with her. However, she was clueless about the events. When questioned, she became defensive and shrugged off any responsibility, claiming she was protecting her son from a supposedly cheating wife. Realizing she had no intention of letting go of this false narrative, I left immediately, sensing it was futile to waste time with her. A few days ago, I received a call from Patrick. He had come to the realization that he had been manipulated by his mother and had lost everything because of her lies. I received the news that Patrick's father was in the process of divorcing his mother, disgusted by her vile behavior. Patrick, relieved by this revelation, asked if we could work through our problems and rebuild our marriage for the sake of our child. While I was open to the idea, I suggested that he confront his mother before taking any steps toward reconciliation. Agreeing to do so, I felt that if he stood up to his mother, I would be willing to accept him back into my life. We attempted to stay together for a week after Patrick claimed to have had a conversation with his mother. However, during my stay, I realized he had lied to me and was hesitant to address his mother's actions. This deception was the final straw for me, and I packed my bags, ending our marriage. If a husband lacks the courage to discuss misunderstandings and blindly believes his mother, it's better to part ways. Regarding the wedding dress situation, I, a 32-year-old female, got married 7 years ago, and my mother made my wedding dress. She did the same for my older sister 9 years ago. Unfortunately, our mother passed away 3 years ago from cancer. My younger sister, Jess, 27, is currently engaged, and her wedding is in a year. During a coffee meeting, she expressed a desire for our mother to make her dress. But since our mother was no longer alive, she asked if she could wear my wedding dress. Feeling uneasy about this, I suggested she borrow our sister's dress, as I was attached to mine. Jess declined, stating that she wanted mine because it was something our mother made. Reluctant to modify the dress, I offered to lend her the veil instead. Despite my concession, Jess insisted on borrowing the dress, emphasizing that it wouldn't hurt me to make minimal adjustments. I stood firm on my decision, expressing discomfort about modifying the dress, as it held sentimental value as a memory of my mom and one of the best days of my life. While sympathetic to Jess's situation, I maintained my stance. She walked away in tears, accusing me of selfishness for not allowing her to have any feelings close to having something done for our mother. Now, I'm facing criticism from Patrick's father, fiancé, and in-laws, except for my older sister, who didn't take sides. Some are calling me selfish. Am I being unreasonable in this situation? It's not a dress I wear all the time, of course, but it's something truly unique to each daughter. The three of us have flower names on my dress, and my older sister had details of our respective flowers. Modifying something so distinctive, entirely crafted by our mother, by allowing someone else to come in and alter it is really difficult for me. Someone pointed out that it should be lend instead of borrow. My apologies for the mistake. To not IO. I'm so sorry for both of you. She's right that it isn't fair that she won't get a dress, but you will be losing yours. I think the veil is a good compromise if your mother made that as well. Or do you have your mother's dress? I'd agree with not A. I would like to make a suggestion to you. OP. Could you and your older sister maybe get together and have a dress made for your younger sister's wedding? Include the flower details you mentioned and have it made to her liking. It might not be exactly the same, as it didn't come from your mom, but maybe if it was a gift from both of you, and your older sister loans her own accessories she wore at her wedding, it might be almost as good. It could be your gift to her. I'm sorry for the loss of your mother, and I wish all three of you lovely ladies the best, no matter what happens. As for my daughter, who is 11 years old, her biological mother is Erika, who is 29 years old. My son, who is 33, got Erika pregnant. Erika, who we knew as the daughter of a friend, decided she didn't want the baby. My son also didn't want the baby, and we offered to financially help Erika out if we could adopt the baby, as we had always wanted another child. But it never happened for us. We supported Erika by paying her rent for 2 years while she attended college. Fast forward 11 years, and unfortunately, we have a strained relationship with our son, as he doesn't want to be involved with our daughter. However, we still see him and text him frequently. During a visit, he informed us that Erika had asked to see our daughter. My husband had told Erika when she was pregnant that we might allow contact, but honestly, we don't think it's best for our daughter at this stage. It would be confusing and upsetting for her. I explained to Erika that when our daughter is emotionally well enough, we'll tell her, but right now she's going through therapy for anxiety. My son thinks I'm in the wrong, and Erika, who now has a 2-year-old, believes that I'm being unreasonable. They both argue that our daughter has a right to know her biological mother. Furthermore, Erika's parents, whom I've known for over 25 years, are now refusing contact and spreading insults about us to common friends, claiming that they allowed the adoption, but Erika has a right to know her daughter. This wasn't a problem 3 years ago. During the previous instances when we dealt with this situation, Erika reached out to us, and at that time, we turned her down, explaining that we weren't comfortable with contact until our daughter reached adulthood. However, now suddenly, everyone seems to be losing their minds. Am I the one in the wrong here? Initially, I was considering going with Nadiejo until I read that your daughter doesn't even know she's adopted. This is a crucial detail that every adopted child should know from the beginning. Even if the adoption originated from a difficult situation, trust me, as an adopted child, finding out years later would be infuriating. It's better to tell her now before serious resentment sets in. Get her into therapy too. We all have to do things we don't want to do, but leaving out such a significant part of your daughter's life at her age is going to rock her world. Regardless, you're the one who is perceived as being in the wrong. Not for not wanting Erika to meet your daughter, but for the fact that your daughter doesn't know she's adopted. That was a misstep, as she may view this as being lied to her whole life. I recommend discussing this with her therapist to determine the best way to break the news. It sounds like you can't rely on the people in the know to keep this information from her, and it will be 1,000 times worse if someone else tells her first. As for my situation, I, a 28-year-old male, have 2 friends, Dee, a 27-year-old female, and Tommy, a 29-year-old male. We've known each other since middle school and make it a point to stay in touch, meeting for a meal at least once a month, often twice. Despite a 40-minute drive between us, it's worth it to maintain our friendship. This tradition paused during the pandemic, but has resumed semi-regularly. I am single and a romantic, and my friends have never made me feel like a third wheel. These gatherings are not dates. It's our decompression time, a chance for friends to have a nice meal, and maybe a few drinks. After the pandemic, Dee never returned to work, and they both seemed fine with this arrangement. She enjoys homemaking, and that's her thing, which is not my concern. However, the issue arises when the bill comes. Tommy consistently asks for it to be split 2 ways, or just split that way because only 2 of us walk up to the pay counter initially. Initially, I shrugged it off, considering the cost differences were minor. But it reached a breaking point recently when we went to a new place, and the bill came to around $50 per person. I couldn't help but speak up when Tommy tried to instruct the waitress to split the bill 2 ways. I calculated my share at the table and found that what I had accounted for came up to $67, while a third of the total bill was $71. I informed him that I would either pay a third, even though it exceeded my portion, or we could split the bill equally. I didn't mind either way since the amounts were close. However, he was visibly appalled, considering it embarrassing that I had done the math right there in front of Dee, knowing that she wasn't currently employed. He made a pointed remark about how I earned more than her anyway. In response to his remark, I said something that perhaps I shouldn't have, pointing out that I'm not the only one married to her. So why should I subsidize her unless she's coming home with me half the time? I paid my portion and left. Now, he's incessantly texting me about how I embarrassed him in front of his wife, insisting that I should have handled the situation more like a man and split the bill between the men, as it's the proper thing to do. As I reflect on the situation, I realize this has been happening since college. He and I would split the cost, and she would tag along too. While I acknowledge I may be in the wrong for what I said, I also question if I erred in settling the bill in front of her. She's known me just as long as he has, and maybe I should have deferred and resolved it later. He's been accustomed to getting away with this for so long that he now expects it. Clearly, splitting the bill evenly when there are 3 people doesn't make sense. It's perplexing how something like this could embarrass him in front of his wife. Regardless, I've realized that this pattern is obnoxious, and I shouldn't be paying for half when people take advantage, especially in situations where the meal costs vary significantly. This practice may work for close friends or family in the long term, but it doesn't apply here.